This is the video for Friday, May the 8th. We start off with FinViz, and you can note it. First thing you see is that the Dow 30 volume is particularly low. Advancers led decliners by a huge amount. NASDAQ, we're constantly seeing average volume, and the S&P 500, more average volume than the Dow, but still under. We'll see that when we look at our volume charts. Stock market breadth popped up to the 100 line, just about over the 100 line, 150, and that is the top of the overbought range. Now there is a good chance that we continue to move a little bit higher. We've got these 2 points here, which are quite a stretch for the oscillator to go up, but there's some things we need to take a look at in the chart that are a little bit concerning. Let's look at, there's the oscillator, here's the stacked volume, which was less than Thursday. So overall this week was pretty low volume, lower volume than we've seen in 1 month. This is what the advancers and decliner volume looked like in terms of millions of shares. And the summation index continues to creep even higher towards 2,000. So we never did get this dip, bounce, big fail. We just had this one big fail. Let's take a look at the S&P, but let's look at the S&P on a weekly basis. Here's the daily, which you can see it's just approaching the 200 moving average. When we get to the weekly, we'll see just how important that 200 moving average is. And remember, the Chiku span is approaching this area here, where you can see if we move this away, you can see that the 50 simple moving average and the 200 extended moving averages actually cross. And for that to be a magnet to the Chiku span, that would have to happen on Monday. So let's take a look and see. This would require quite the spike up to 29.95 for the Chiku span to hit this point. We've got resistance at the 200 to look at. Let's move this back. Now let's look at the weekly chart, because you can tell a lot more from the weekly chart. The weekly chart shows the price is in the cloud. This is a daily moving average that we rejected at last week. We didn't quite make it to that point this week, but we did close the week near the high of the range. It was only this tiny, tiny little wick preventing us from finishing the week at the highest point through the week. We stopped at 61.8% on the Fibonacci. That's a pretty important level. So we've got the 61.8, we've got the 200 moving average, and we've also got the top of the cloud. So all these three things are going to come into play when this candle starts to form next week. That's an awful lot of resistance. The volatility index continued to drop. Did I tell you that I took a position in Wayfair? No, I didn't, because that was on Friday, but I did tweet it out. So this was brought to our attention by Mr. Patel, and I did take a position of 3 contracts. I've shut down my trading. No, I didn't. So let's take a look and see what the contracts are. In Wayfair, I bought May 190 calls and sold May 200 calls. 3 contracts, and I paid just under $3 for them. I think it was $2.95. So it's a $10 spread, so that they have a possibility of making $6 to $7 of profit per share. So if it continues a little bit higher, I'm going to move this alert now. If we can get above this point, I will be buying more contracts. And it may be the 190-200, but it may be the 195-205, depending on where we are at the time. But I won't do it in the first 30 minutes by any means. I'm going to wait to buy these later on in the morning, between 11:30 and 12 o'clock, when we see what the direction is going to be for the day. Apple continues to rock towards 314.71. and completing the Gartley pattern. The Chiku span is now free of the cloud. There's really nothing now preventing the price from hitting 314.71 next week. Worst case, we come back and we test 303.20, and then we're definitely off to the 314.71. On a weekly basis, same thing, still all positive. Caterpillar. Caterpillar had a nice bounce off of the bottom of the cloud. That's a good sign. Where is the Chiku span? The Chiku span stopped right here. We can get rid of that. And the Chiku span stopped right here, up there, in between these two candles. So we have, in fact, it's right at the top of this candle. Very interestingly, right at the top of that candle. So that's a great place for it to pop out tomorrow. We should look for Caterpillar to use where it ended on Monday for a little bit of a launch to a little bit higher on Monday, if the market cooperates. Doesn't look like there's any bad news over the weekend, well, over Saturday at least, that would prevent the market from moving a little bit higher, at least touching the 200 on the S&P. GDX, which is the gold miners, still banging away at this trend line. It has not closed over this trend line that we drew back here on Wednesday. Home Depot continues to move up. It has completed the Gartley now. So what I did is I took off 400 shares, 300 of which were covered with 205 calls, and one which was uncovered that I had purchased at 212, sold for 235, 100 shares. I'm in a half position now because I really believe that hitting this Gartley pattern dead on like that signifies that we may have a little bit of a pullback, looking for a test possibly on the 8 EMA. Now, I told you that earnings are taking place this week on Home Depot. That was incorrect. They're actually next Tuesday on the 19th. So we've got a whole week before the volatility on the calls and the puts for Home Depot will start to go sky high. But I expect Home Depot and Lowe's are both going to have pretty good earnings. And a pullback would be very nice. And then an opportunity to buy some stock with some high volatility calls towards the end of the week or on Monday of next week. Smile Direct doing very well, Andy, up 9 cents. Whirlpool just struggled to go above the cloud. Where was its high of the day? Let's draw a green line right at that point. And can we do that? Let's do that right now. And we couldn't. But where is it? It's right here. Can we do it now? No, not now either. So anyhow, I wanted to tell you that we stopped with the Chiku span right at the 50. So that's not the first time that the 50 has been resistance on the Chiku span. It's been several times on the way down. So what else do we want to take a look at? Let's go into some of the new stocks. We were asked to take a look at, well, FSLY is the big one that Andy bought. It continues to roar even higher. Good luck, Andy. I hope you've taken some off or at least put a trailing stop on that. That's an awesome gain. Tech. Tech is starting to move up. Andy said to watch Tech, and he was correct. We've got to bounce off that trend line. We still have the gap to break through, but that was another good call, Andy. Tech is doing pretty well. Freeport McMoran, just breaking out of this wedge pattern. We've already talked about W. Really nice. It's going to 127.2% is my guess. Is there anything else in here? NVIDIA. NVIDIA is still cranking towards 333.95. I'm out of it now. I may very well on Monday put on some vertical put in the SPY. And where is my SPY chart? right here. So I'm looking at the SPY or the SPX just below the 200 in the cloud, the Chiku span getting resistance up here. It wouldn't surprise me if we had a bit of a pullback, people looking to take the gains off this steep move up and look for a point of another bounce. If we look at the daily chart for the SPY, we can see this may be an area of test right in here at 270. And if it was looking for a new low but not the ultimate low, it would be 240. I may very well buy some July 270 puts and sell the 240 puts. And that would only be for protection. Because I'm not going to sell Apple or the rest of my Home Depot or Wayfair. I have no intention of selling those right now, or Caterpillar, or Whirlpool, or AT&T. You know, I like all of those stocks, and I've got covered calls in all of them, which are bringing in premium every day. But I just want to have a protective hedge on. If the market goes up higher, then my protective hedge is gone, is wasted. But that's what you buy insurance for.